Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 5th edition of the Skal International Pattaya East Thailand official get-together. Of course, we meet every month. Thank you very much for coming this evening. But before I go on to the, please all stand up to do the Skal toast, please. To fellow Skalics everywhere.
Fellow Skalics everywhere.
Happiness.
Happiness.
Good health.
Good health.
Friendship.
Friendship.
Long life.
Long life.
Skal.
Skal.
Hello, well, it's Skal again. It's the third Thursday of the month, and this time we're at the Moon River Pub at the Thai Garden Resort, and with a guest speaker who's the Managing Director of Sentinel Enterprises. She's the Managing Director. Her name is Angie Turton. Angie, tonight you've been talking about diving with sharks and rays. How did it go?
Well, actually, I was quite nervous, but I think it went quite well.
Well, you've been coming to Skal for, I think this is your third event, right?
Yes, it's my third event.
Yeah, so you're amongst friends, and that's the Skal motto, doing business amongst friends.
Yes, I have to agree. I felt quite comfortable with the people that were here.
Okay, now your company, well, it's actually you and your husband Steve. It's just been voted the number one attraction in Pattaya, hasn't it? This diving with the sharks and the rays. So tell us, where is it? What do people experience, and what's the cost?
Well, it's in Underwater World Pattaya. That's the aquarium on Sukhumvit Road.
Okay.
And we've been voted number one on TripAdvisor. Because everybody has an absolutely fantastic experience. Even people that have never dived before, they can go diving. We teach them exactly what they have to do just to go down into the water and swim with some nice big sharks and other big fish.
Okay, no experience necessary then?
No experience necessary.
And
you don't even have to be able to swim.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, what kind of age group are you attracting?
Anybody from 8 years old upwards.
8 upwards, okay. All right. And the feedback from them has obviously been phenomenal.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you showed a series of slides tonight and a video where people can actually not just dive with the sharks, but they can feed the turtle and feed the rays as well.
Yeah, you have a chance to feed the eagle rays. They actually come up to you and take the food from your hands.
Okay.
This is optional. It's not a thing that you have to do if you're too afraid or anything like that.
Okay.
No, you can just sit back and enjoy the experience.
All right. Now, at the beginning of your presentation, you dispelled a few myths regarding sharks, because everybody thinks of sharks like dun 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 dun, dun, right?
Jaws,
right.
Yeah.
But actually, a number of the sharks are, and not just because they're kind of domesticated because they're an underwater world, but a number of sharks are actually they wouldn't take a bit of human flesh anyway, would they?
No, they wouldn't. When you talk about diving with sharks, a lot of people have this understanding that they're going to go diving with great whites or tiger sharks, something like this, which is absolutely no way. There are over 400 species of sharks out there, and only 10 of them are considered dangerous to humans. So.
All right. Now, Underwater World is on Sukhumvit Road, and it's a very well-known attraction in Pattaya.
It's right next door to Macro.
Right next door to Macro. Okay. And what is the price, and how long do people get for the money they pay?
The price for foreigners is normally 3,000 baht. That's diving in 2 tanks.
Okay.
For over an hour.
Over an hour, okay. Well, I would imagine an hour's, it doesn't sound long, but if you haven't done that sort of thing before, I would think an hour is long enough.
It depends on the people. Some people are limited with, they've come with a taxi or a tour group or whatever. So, but the time is not such an important issue here. The thing is, you going inside and having an enjoyable time.
Okay, now it should be pointed out that you don't just sort of put the oxygen tanks on them and throw them in the water. You actually have the experienced divers who go in there with them, don't you?
Yes, of course. There's somebody with you at all times to take care of you and hold your hand if you need it to. Because
one of the things is getting used to the respirator, I believe. Is that right?
The regulator, yes.
Regulator, sorry.
Yes. We have a small tank which is deep enough for you to just stand up in, out of the water, waist height, and you can put the regulator in your mouth, the mask on, put your face in the water and practice breathing through the regulator before you actually enter into the tank.
Okay, all right. Now you said for foreigners it's 3,000 baht. So what is it for Thais?
We have a special discount for Thai people. All Thai nationals, they only need to pay 1,800 baht.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a significant discount.
Yes, of course. We try to look after the Thai people. After all, we are in Thailand.
Okay. And how long have you been at Underwater World now?
Been there about 6 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I've been there with my kids, so when I go there and I see that's your husband or his team that's in there in the water in the tank, right?
Usually taking care of tourists inside,
right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, so there you go. People, if you want to get involved with this, you can get in touch. We'll bring up the details on the screen. You can get in touch with Angie or her husband, and you also could be diving with sharks and rays in Underwater World here in Pattaya. We've got one more interview tonight because the president for Skal for the whole of Thailand is gracing us with his presence, Mr. Andrew Wu. So stay tuned and we'll catch up with him. In the meantime, Angie, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now joining us now is a very old friend, a man that we don't see nearly enough of, Andrew Wood, the president of Skal International in Thailand. Andrew, nice to see you. You're a bad boy, you know. This is your first Skal event, other than the relaunch since we came back to Pattaya. So, but nice to see you.
Thank you, Paul. You're absolutely right. It's fantastic to be back in Pattaya. And gosh, hasn't it changed? It's like coming back to a good old friend, but
okay.
It's getting better every time I come back.
Okay, all right. Just talking about Pattaya as for someone who visits it, what do you see how it's changed and how it's changing as a city and embracing tourism from your perspective?
Good question. We were driving down Beach Road. I was here last week, one of my rare visits. I still have a property here, so it's easy for me to nip down from Bangkok, but I don't do it quite so much as I used to. I hadn't been here for 3 months, and what was very evident driving down Beach Road was, one, they're digging up Beach Road again. Welcome back to Pattaya. Yes. The buses were now parked on both sides of the road, and I thought that was very interesting. A lot of new hotel developments, a lot of new buildings generally, and a lot of new condos. That's my initial impression. There seem to be more Asian faces. I see lots of Chinese here. I hear lots more Russian voices around as well.
Yes.
So those are my initial impressions.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, everybody's very aware of the Russian contingency in Pattaya now. The Chinese, they seem to be the sort of quiet ones. You know, they don't infiltrate us so much, but they do in a sense, because it's their tour buses that are clogging up the roads and such like, which isn't a bad thing because this is tourism, right?
You're absolutely right, Paul. And I'm an ex-hotelier now, and I'm now a travel agent, a travel company. And in that capacity, I was in Shanghai recently, and I had the honour to be briefed by the TAT office in Shanghai.
Uh-huh.
There will be, are you ready?
I'm ready.
There will be 6 million Chinese tourists in Thailand by 2014. Not far away, next year. That means that 1 in 5 tourists throughout the whole of Thailand, out of 28 million tourists that are expected, 1 in 5 will be from China. Okay, everybody will tell you, and I was told this when I was at university 20 odd years ago in Scotland, that China is the thing to look for and to look out for, and that you should be learning Mandarin because that's the way of the future. Well, folks, it's arrived. We may have believed it, we may not have believed it, we may have thought we were ready, but it's well and truly here. And you can just see that in Pattaya. Enormously. It's not just Pattaya, it's in Phuket and Samui and Bangkok as well.
Sure. Actually, I just did a freelance job for a company where I did the voiceover in English, but then it was translated and we did the subtitles in Mandarin. So it backs up exactly what you're saying, because that's their target market. So Pattaya has changed. Has Skal changed? Has it changed enough for it to keep going? That's the number one question.
In
Pattaya.
My absolute answer is yes, it's changed an awful lot. It's changed in so many ways, Paul. First of all, we have a vibrant new club in Pattaya. And I've just learned tonight here at the Thai Garden Resort in the Moon River Pub, where we're holding our monthly Skal meeting in Pattaya, that we have 30 members now. It doesn't sound a lot, but that means that 30 individuals are committed to attending a meeting at least once a month and talking to each other and sharing business and doing business, hopefully, with each other under a common umbrella called Skal International. To answer your big question, has Skal changed? I think Skal has become more aware of its status. I think it was the shy association of travel and tourism worldwide, and one under our new president Mok Singh. I say new, he's been our president almost a year now. Mok had the task of positioning Skal as a trusted voice in travel and tourism, and I think he's doing a tremendous job there. And we are talking to all our supporters and suppliers and our industry friends about things like human rights and about positioning of the aviation industry and how it impacts travel and tourism. And we're looking at, like Pattaya is looking at a big picture of how much is travel and tourism worth to a country? What's the total value? It's not just about arrivals. Arrivals is a figure, but arrivals, a tourist spends money. So they are a figure, they're number one, they arrive, number two, they spend, and number three, they have an enormous economic impact on our industry. And it's no surprise that tourism is one of Thailand's main industries and employers in Thailand.
Well, it's interesting what you're saying, and actually it's I would say it's backed up by some of the things that were said tonight by our guest speaker Angie, when she was talking about this diving with the sharks, and she was saying that okay, this is a tourist attraction, but the local schools, the international schools such as Regent's and Andrews, they actually sent their teachers out to make sure that they were doing things correctly, that if it's going to be part, not necessarily of the curriculum, but because they do these school days outings, and that maybe sounds just like a throwaway thing, but it's actually very important that we all have a bit of responsibility, isn't it?
I think Angie and Steve have identified, first of all, that they're professional, and that there is an awful lot of, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of misunderstanding about particularly dealing with animals and particularly dealing with sharks.
Sure.
And there's a worldwide movement against eating shark's fin soup. But Angie quite quickly and quite forcibly identified that most sharks are actually harmless and will never harm a human being, for instance. They're just there looking after themselves, eating worms and crustaceans. They don't want to eat human beings. So what it has done, it's educational. I think this comes back to your point about the Regent School sending people to have a look at it to make sure that it was all okay and was correct for young minds. And I think education at every age is important when you're talking about marine life in a resort, seaside resort like Pattaya.
Okay, so we're now kind of coming out the end of the low season, the lights at the end of the tunnel, the one that everybody's waiting for. What about Skal on a, not an international but a national basis? What's going on with the clubs that you see and the way things are going to look for the rest of the year?
Well, with Pattaya's relaunch earlier this year, Paul, we are now back to 6 Skal clubs in Thailand. From the very far north of Chiang Mai all the way down to Phuket, we have 6 very active clubs. And what we see coming up is our World Congress. Pattaya is familiar with that. As 2006, we hosted the 67th World Congress, and a highly successful Congress that was. Over 1,000 industry influencers from travel and tourism worldwide descended on Thailand and Pattaya to join in a 5-day conference at the Royal Cliff Beach Resort, and it was phenomenal exposure for a resort like Pattaya. So that we've got the World Congress, not in Pattaya unfortunately this year, it's in New York, and that will take place for the first time on a cruise liner.
Wow.
So talk about
Very
captured
good.
audiences,
Sure.
Paul. You can't get off. You will attend the
That's
seminar.
right. Sure.
But I think what that says is that cruising is a big business too.
Sure, okay. And is Thailand keeping a pace with the needs of the changing demographics? You know, like we're talking about the Chinese and the Russians, and you know, someone said to me, well, you know, the Chinese, they're great gamblers, of course, and of course in Thailand, we're not allowed to gamble.
Of course, we don't have any gambling in Thailand, do we?
No, we don't. No, not at all.
No, and we have very straightforward things like lottery and horse racing in Bangkok, but we don't have any gambling. Of course not. He says with crossed legs and fingers. However, having said that, yes, the Chinese are great gamblers, but having been to China and having talked to the agents and the people at the sharp end selling travel and tourism to Thailand from China, what are the Chinese tourists looking for? Space. You know, they're living in very cramped conditions. One of the world's most populous countries, 1.3, not million, but billion, 1.3 billion people living in one country, and they're cramped. So they come to Thailand, and when they come, they want space, they want a bit of luxury, they want to see something green, they want a stress-free environment. And this is something that most of our travel and tourism suppliers are perhaps not aware of.
Okay, all right. Well, Andrew, the band are starting up, so we're going to get back to another stress-free environment here at the Moon River Pub with a very corny little catch there, but for the All Colours band who play here every night, and you can be part of Skal, whether it be on a national basis or with the local club. You don't even have to join the club to come along and enjoy one of our informative dinners where we have guest speakers. The next one will be at the Hard Rock. We'll bring the details up on the screen. In the meantime, this is Paul. Andrew, thank you very much. Nice to see you again.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.